Howdy folks, I'm Frilly Field Scabbus, fiercely flustering, fussy, fluttering finches.
I'm Amber.
And here are more fluttering finches for us to fiercely fluster. So I'm all flustered too. So let's get started on that. Alright folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Refusing to Pay the Locksmith for Fixing the Lock on My Bedroom? I'm currently staying in an Airbnb, a long-term thing. It is one of those electronic locks with a code on it. I share my apartment with 3 other people and have my bedroom to myself. We share 2 bathrooms and a kitchen. They're all long-term guests as well, but we don't really talk unless we cross paths in common areas, which rarely happens. Last night around 2 a.m., I woke up to pee. I didn't lock my bedroom door, but I closed it. I had my phone with me because I use my phone pretty much everywhere. When I got back from the bathroom, I couldn't get back into my bedroom. I didn't want to bug the owner so late at night, so I just left her a text. I got the read at timestamp thing all the same. And I found her missed call. My phone was on Do Not Disturb because it was late. I called her back. She accused me of putting in the wrong code. Now, I've been staying in this Airbnb for 3+ months now, entering the same code day after day. So this was very unlikely. I still double-checked the code on the Airbnb app, and then I sent her a video of myself entering it and getting an error message. She said that there was nothing that she could do for me this late, and suggested that I stay in a hotel. I told her that I couldn't do that because I didn't have my ID, plus I didn't want to shell out money. But I didn't tell her that. My license/passport were all locked up in my bedroom because I didn't anticipate needing an ID at 2 a.m. while getting up to use the bathroom. She said that she could have me stay in another empty room, but I would have to pay the cleaning fee. Now, money is tight for me because some family emergencies, and I didn't want to do that either, so I refused. I think that it's unfair that I would have to pay extra cleaning fees when the lock gave me no indication that the battery was low. She said I could just have ignored your text, you know. So instead of arguing with her, I asked her the proper time to call, and she said 7 a.m. when the locksmith/handyman would be available. I said it's fine, and decided to spend the night in the dining room chair. Well, one of the next door guys, who's usually up late, walked in to help and loaned me his charger. And I spent the night sitting in a chair while doom scrolling and reading one of the books in my bookshelf. And after 7 a.m., I texted the owner again. She told me that she would check with the locksmith and handyman. We'll call him Kevin, and they would get back to me. I kept on scrolling through my phone until 7:40 or so, when she texted me that Kevin was on his way. The guy that lent me his charger told me that something similar had happened to him in the previous year, but luckily it wasn't late at night. So Kevin had responded promptly. Anyways, Kevin showed up, fixed the lock, got my bedroom open, and left. Now the owner is asking me to pay Kevin. The next door guy hadn't been asked to pay him when this happened to his door. She said it's because she had to force Kevin out of his normal business hours. I said it's not my fault that the door got locked. I hadn't locked it. The battery had died. And when she said that it couldn't be fixed until the morning, I hadn't bothered her any further, but had spent the whole night in the kitchen. This led to an argument, and she said, "You're young, your body recovers quickly from a night out. We, herself and Kevin, aren't young. We can't be up so late." I told her that all I did was send her one text. I was fully prepared to stay outside all night if she hadn't responded. It wasn't my fault that the lock had malfunctioned. I hadn't locked the door from the inside. Kevin confirmed this, or entered the wrong code. If his business hours were from 9, she should have told me, and I would have stayed until 9. She told me that it was 7, so that's why I called him then. I said that it's not sensitive to assume that just because I'm young, I don't need my rest as well. But I didn't complain and text her. I didn't even call unless she called first, at the office hours that she herself had told me. She called me cheap and just ended the discussion. I am planning to leave this Airbnb and find another accommodation because of this. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, absolutely not the jerk. And I would document everything. Like, make sure to keep a careful record of this conversation, because she seems like the type of person who's going to try to hit you with last-minute charges.
Yeah.
You know, she is a scammer. This was her responsibility as the landlord to make sure that your key, your door is not going to lock you out. She should have immediately offered, like if she couldn't get there that night, immediately offered you to stay for free in one of the other units.
Yeah.
What she did is not at all okay. I'm not sure like where OP lives, if it's violating laws per se, but it's definitely very, very shady.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be someone who's renting out to people, then you need to be prepared for emergencies, right? And the fact of the matter is that this was an emergency. OP paid for that room that they did not get to use.
Mm-hmm.
And she needs to understand that OP is out that night, right? And if you start renting out rooms to people, then you need to accept the responsibility that your life might be inconvenienced because of these individuals, right? And while she's calling OP cheap, she's being just as cheap by not, one, loaning OP a room, and two, being annoyed that they have to pay for Kevin, right?
Well, that's the thing. Like, OP isn't the one being cheap here because this is not OP's responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one being cheap and trying to shirk her duty as the landlord.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
So I agree with Amber here. They need to document this. They need to report this to Airbnb because I'm pretty sure Airbnb is not going to be happy about this, right? And warrant other people that this landlord will do something like this. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I the jerk for telling my sister that I won't keep helping her if she keeps saying that my help doesn't count? My sister is a 29-year-old female and is very selective about how she wants things to be done. Whenever I help her, she always says that it doesn't really count unless it's done exactly how she wants. Recently, I spent a full day helping her with packing, cleaning, and running errands. I was very tired and needed a rest because it was a lot of work, but later she told my mom that I didn't really help with important parts. I told her that I don't want to keep helping if my efforts are not going to be appreciated. She got upset and said that I'm just looking for what to get angry over and that she just has high standards. Now my parents think that I should just ignore it, but I feel like my help only matters if it fits her expectations. All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. She can go have high standards for someone she pays to do this. You are doing this for free as a kindness to her.
Yeah.
Like, she can either take your help as it is, or she can find someone else to do it. But you do not have to put up with this nonsense.
Well, that's it. Is like she's getting upset that OP won't help when basically they're already claiming that OP isn't helping. So what kind of double standard is this? It only counts as help when she says it does, but if OP refuses to help, then they're not helping anymore, right? Like, this just doesn't make any sense, right? Make it make sense for me, please. Please make it make sense. If OP was doing negative work and actually causing the sister to actually have to redouble their efforts, yeah, I mean, I could understand them being upset at OP for that, right?
But like needing to take a break, like that is normal.
Mm-hmm. But the fact that she's like, oh, I just have high standards. No, you're being a jerk. That's really what it boils down to, right?
Right, an entitled jerk.
Yeah, a choosy beggar.
You are not entitled to OP's labor.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for throwing my coworker under the bus to get a promotion and a 20% raise, even after he promised to talk me up? I'm a 20-year-old male, and I work at a fairly large corporate company. A little background on my career trajectory here. I've been with the company for almost a year. I started at the very bottom as a customer service rep and busted my butt and worked my way up to an executive assistant in less than 12 months. It's an intense, highly collaborative environment, and you really have to stand out to get noticed. My coworker, we'll call him Tommy, a 28-year-old male, is also an executive assistant. He's a bit older than me and has been with the company for about 3 years. It took him the entire 3 years to reach the same executive assistant position that I got and won. We worked together constantly on joint projects, along with a few other assistants. Recently, management announced a restructuring, and Tommy and I and a couple of others were informed that we were being considered for a major promotion. It came with a title bump and a massive 20% salary increase. In this economy, that's life-changing money for me. Because of the size of the raise, the evaluation process was grueling. We all had to undergo objective performance evaluations, followed by a gauntlet of one-on-one meetings with our direct manager, department heads, directors, and finally the vice presidents who look at the bigger picture. The final decision had to go through the whole series of people. Well, the day before the final round of interviews, Tommy and I were chatting in the break room. He's a genuinely nice guy, and he told me that during his peer feedback session, he was going to do nothing but talk about what a great collaborator I am and how effectively I get things done with everyone. To be fair, this is 100% true. I carry a lot of the weight of the joint projects and keep everything running fast. I smiled and I thanked him, and I told him that I would try to do the same for him. Well, my final meeting was with a senior leader who has a lot of pull in the final decision. Towards the end of the interview, he looked at my file, leaned back, and asked me point blank, "Would you say Tommy is a team player?" In a split second, I realized that this was a zero-sum game. Only one of us was going to get the 20% bump. So I looked at the senior leader and I said, honestly, no. He mostly just does his specific part, immediately goes back on break, and then moves on to the next thing without checking if the rest of the team is drowning. To make matters worse, I then took the opportunity to point out a few specific logistical mistakes that Tommy had made over the last quarter to highlight the contrast between our work ethics. What I said was partly true. Tommy has checked out and done exactly that maybe 25% of the time, but I wouldn't say it's common occurrence. And 75% of the time, he is perfectly fine and helpful. But I didn't tell the senior leader the percentages. I framed it as his standard operating procedure because frankly, I wanted the job. The decision came down yesterday. I got the promotion and raise. Tommy pulled me aside to congratulate me, and he looked really defeated and mentioned the feedback that he had gotten from the VP was that he lacked team synergy and initiative, and seemed genuinely confused by it. He also reiterated that he had told the panel that I was the best EA on the floor. This is the corporate world. I didn't technically lie. He did do the things that I mentioned. I just omitted the context to secure my own future. I worked faster and harder to get to this level than he did, and I wasn't going to let an agreement stop me from climbing the ladder. Some of my friends outside of work say that I'm cutthroat, but you have to be to survive in corporate America. My girlfriend thinks what I did was incredibly slimy. Am I the jerk for telling the truth to secure a promotion? All right, folks, what do you think?
Yes, OP, you are the jerk, and you are repeatedly lying through this post. You did not tell the truth. You misrepresented Tommy. Like, it would have been one thing if you didn't make an agreement and said, well, 25% of the time he does check out. Like, there's nothing wrong with being honest. But there is something wrong with deliberately lying, because that's when you omit facts. You are lying by omission. There's a term for that, to make someone look bad to get a job.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if OP hadn't been had told Tommy that, hey, I'm just going to be as honest and truthful as I can be, and not said that they were going to back up Tommy, then that would have been a different thing. But he basically played kind of like game theory, where he knew that Tommy was going to talk him up, so there was no incentive for OP to basically say anything good about Tommy, because he knew he was guaranteed to get this like good vibe from Tommy, right? And I guess Tommy probably worked against their own favor by supporting somebody like OP, who is just kind of a slimy individual who is going to be cutthroat and everything, right?
At least Tommy has a moral compass.
Yeah.
Like, I feel bad that Tommy was taken for a ride by OP. I think I hope karma comes back and bites OP really hard, because this was an absolute scummy move.
Yeah. I mean, it was. And I feel like OP should have been more honest with the situation. If he really thought that Tommy didn't pull his weight, some of the time, he should have said some of the time. He should have said, well, most of the time, Tommy is really great. I have seen some instances where blah, 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 right? If they really wanted to, because they were asked from the senior executive person about Tommy, and they should be giving an honest answer there too, right? But they also need to be not like misrepresenting the truth about the matter too, right?
Well, and this isn't just about this one promotion, right?
No.
Like, if OP is lying about Tommy now, that kind of lie can follow Tommy and ruin careers.
Yeah, and so I feel really bad for Tommy here, because it seems like Tom is a really good person, and part of the reason why it may have taken him 3 years to get to this point is because he's not as cutthroat as OP, right?
Right, and I hate that the company is rewarding this bloodthirsty cutthroat mentality. It
Yeah.
should not. We should not have that. Like,
Yeah, it's just in poor form. It's really in poor form. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Having Our Kids Make a List of Things That My Wife Does That They Don't Like? I really didn't think when this happened that I would be posting this. My wife and I are both 39, and we have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. On Friday, my 9-year-old went to a friend's house, and when I picked him up, he was complaining that my wife still calls him baby in front of his friends. Okay. Then he said that his friend's mom doesn't make them be under supervision when they're using the trampoline. And also that his friend's mom doesn't make his friends wear sunscreen, supposedly. I told him that he should make a list of all the stuff that she does that bothers him. Maybe she doesn't know that it bothers him. So he did, and since our 6-year-old saw him doing it, she decided to make a list of her own. But her list was 99% things that she just doesn't like doing that has to be done anyways. The kids gave the list to my wife and probably told her that I told them to do this since my wife immediately was mad at me for telling them to make a passive-aggressive list. She actually seemed really hurt with her feelings about this. And I told her that if she didn't take it personally, that she could actually take the complaints and know what to change, at least for the 9-year-old. We sat there for 2 hours watching a show in silence, as she didn't want to talk to me. This was some time ago, but she was still kind of sore over it the following day. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
yes, OP, you are a major jerk. First of all, 2/3 of the son's complaints are not legitimate either. Kids need sunscreen.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't even matter what their skin color is. Like, we know that, like, too much sun exposure can lead to cancer, premature skin aging, all kinds of horrible things. Of course, 9-year-olds don't like sunscreen. It's not fun. It's still needed. And trampolines are hella dangerous. So supervising the kids on the trampoline is a good thing. What you should have done, there's only one legitimate complaint, that's the calling him baby, and you could have just said, okay, I'm going to talk to your mom about this and explain that you don't like it. But having the kids sit down and make grievance lists and be like, well, you should be taking this feedback on board. Do you let the kids make grievance lists about you?
Well, I mean, I get the impression that OP is the fun parent because
Yeah.
they don't want to impose any rules or anything like that on their kids. And I mean, like, that's an unfair burden to put on the wife. I mean, I do think, like, it's important to explain to kids why we do certain things. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
you wear sunscreen, like, you should tell the kids, hey, this is good for your health. If you wear the sunscreen, then it's going to help you, right? You can get sick, really sick, if you don't wear sunscreen, right, in the future. And kids will generally understand that. As for like the supervision, I mean, I've known a lot of people who've gotten very badly injured on trampolines, right? And like, what happens if the kids fall off, or what happens if they break an arm, or any number of things, right? I think that the other parent is being a bit reckless by
Mm-hmm.
not supervising them on something as dangerous as trampoline. uh, you know, I think that kids should be allowed to have their own playtime and have time away from adults to, play and interact. But I think there are certainly activities that are very dangerous that should be supervised as well, right? Um, but, instead of approaching the mom and saying, Mom, why do I have to wear sunscreen? Or Mom, why do we have to be supervised when we play on the trampoline? Or Mom, can you please stop calling me baby in front of my friends? It really bothers me. You taught them that, all they need to do is make a grievance list to their mom every single time there's something that they don't like, right?
Well, and like, it is important for kids to have autonomy at an age appropriate
Yeah,
level,
yeah.
but you need to understand what is important for their health and safety. And it seems like
Mm-hmm.
Opie doesn't even have a grasp on that and is perfectly fine with letting the kids do dangerous things because, they don't see a problem with it. And like, I am concerned that Opie and the wife are not on the same page about trampolines and sunscreen.
Yeah. So I think they need to have a long talk and conversation about what the kids can and can't engage in safely, right? But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
How many apples grow on trees?
Well, I mean, all apples grow on trees.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, because like we don't have magic non-apples that can just miraculously appear. That's why. But actually, the word apple is actually means general fruit. So when they used to say apple of my eye, it meant the fruit of my eye. So that the word we would use now as fruit really was apple at one point in time. So it's weird how language works.
It is, although apples are pretty ubiquitous.
Yeah. And I have Earl Grey. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy terrific Tuesday, spelled TWO. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and our guidance, and please have it on being cutthroat and throwing one of your coworkers under the bus.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, don't do that. But thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.